Good morning, everyone. Today we have a chat with Tijen, Genco Master Coach, and we are going to be talking about the fifth perspective in her Genco methodology on resilience, and that is mastery. And this series of conversations was supposed to be just the month of April, but it's gone so well. We've had so much fun doing it. We decided to add a bonus session today to aspect because it's just been such a great series of conversations that have produced so much insight and has been so relevant. So it's great. Hey, Tijen, good morning.
Good morning, Jamie. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone. It's great to be able to talk with you one more time. I'm excited about this bonus session to get into another perspective of your methodology on resilience.
I am looking forward to it. It's ending our final session with the spring, with the grand finale.
Yes, the grand finale. Yeah, it's been really fun, and this has gotten me so excited about having more conversations like this, honestly, with you and some of the others, that have worked with Lemon Rebellion. I think this is a great way to just dig deep into some of these topics that really matter. So I'd be very happy if we go at this again a little further down the road, because I think there's so much to share and talk about.
I would love it. I always love to talk with you and hosting all these wonderful people is the, what is it? I don't use the cream on top, but maybe broccoli on top.
Sure, I know what you mean, but let's cashews, high quality nutrients, but also tasty. Cashew cream on top.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Good. So today we're going to be talking about mastery, which is the fifth aspect of your neurological approach to coaching around the Genco methodology. Last week was integration. What is mastery about?
Yeah, so in my article, if people who are not familiar with it, they can actually find it on my website, gencocoaching.com, with typing the resilience on the search function. I describe these resilience experiences like a bottleneck that when life offers you with your language lemons,
Yes.
there is the
Right.
narrowing aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then one can decide whether they want to get stuck in that bottleneck, they will go back in their energetic or spiritual growth, which is possible, right? One become bitter about what is happening and never can get out of it. Or one can move through it and get to the other side to emerge with the light again. So in a way that integration helps the final push.
Right.
And then the mastery, when you go to the other side, what are you going to do? And if you choose to go to the other side, this is an optional step in a way that one can decide, I'm going to integrate and just keep it to myself, not be vocal about it, not, I don't have desire to help anyone else. That's fine too. Or one can decide, no, I'm going to be bitter about it, never grow out of it. That's also fine. We all can choose whatever we want with our life. But the mastery in a way that, how do you get to become a beacon of light for the society, like you're doing with Lemon Rebellion, like I'm doing with my coaching? Of
Right.
course,
Yeah.
right? We move through some challenging experience. We want to hug everybody who's going through the similar. That's where the mastery comes in.
Yeah, that's really good to know. So what you're saying is, with the integration, what we talked about last week is looking at these hard times, challenges, lemons that have happened to us, and almost mining them for the value that they might be able to bring to our lives, and accepting that, okay, this has been part of me. I would never ask for it, but I can work with this and grow from it. And then mastery is about being a beacon. Why do people choose to go into mastery or not? What are some of the factors that people might consider if they want to move forward in this process of resilience towards mastery?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Last week we talked about and used the metaphor of the tin cans behind a newlywed's car. And in this case, that integration is about embedding the scars into you. And when you come to, if you choose to get to the mastery, you wear them like a jewel.
Mm, okay.
You show them that how, because of those, what become of you.
Mm,
Because of that hidden potential, what others can become. And how do you actually no longer to look at something as an impeding experience, but a growth and expansion and beautifying whatever it was.
mm,
So those to me is the potency and the possibility in there, that and every time that when we choose to help another human being, I tell this to my students over and over again. If you're not doing your self work, you cannot help somebody else. I listened hundreds of as coaching assessments, and I can see where the coach hasn't done their work because they can't listen. When the client is saying something similar, they're trying to move the client out of there because they have no tolerance in helping.
mhm.
So in that case, that's the resilience, that muscle needs to be developed. So we can actually stay put. That's the authentic definition of compassion, that stay present, allow somebody to do whatever they need to do and suffer however much they want to suffer. And when they are ready, then we can just support them towards the
Wow.
new movement. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm very impacted by that explanation. I really appreciate you going into that. It's very powerful. You're kind of getting into this already, but how is mastery related to resilience? It seems like it's kind of a final step of finding that purpose in the pain. Is that it, or are there other things that you might share with us?
I think at the step of mastery, we become Olympians of, right? There is a way to walk after the trauma. There is a way to crawl after trauma. And when it is the mastery, you become Olympian, and you develop a lot of skills in a way that can be helpful for other people too. So that's where is important for resilience, that one, like I said, one can stop at the integration process. But I think that every time we are facing with challenging things, uh, we and helping another human being, it helps us to further digest and further grow. We
Yeah.
become more vocal around it, and therefore it is, I think, much more helpful. In a way, in the beginning, you're digesting it, but the further you go along, help more people, you get to be this spreading the possibilities, spreading the positive, authentic, positive essence,
Yeah.
and the energy around it, instead of giving people a lip service and do that, this, the other thing. There is a much more difference in the steps when one arrives to that point. I often, again, this comes to my teachings, that I tell my students, anything that you haven't worked on is going to come to you as a form of a client. And, and every time that stuff that I have worked on, and when I am helping another client to towards self-discovery and growth, it also helps me, that
Yeah.
because I get to see, oh, that's what I have done too. And that's also a possibility. So there is a lot of intimacy. There is a lot of truth experiencing. There is a lot of also self confidence building, in a way, like, oh, yeah, look at me.
Mhm.
That's what I see. What do you think when you hear all that?
Um, I think about my own experiences with this, and it's so interesting to have your framework and perspective, because what we've built over these past 5 conversations is really, the steps of your body of work of how to build resilience. And I'm thinking about the first thing we talked about, detachment, right? And I can see how in mastery, detachment is a skill that's almost amplified because you're pulling back from your own experience and able to see and learn and grow from being on the other side of the challenges that you've gone through, and how much that skill alone would allow you to also then be there for other people in a way that is not ego-based, not egocentric, but really about helping the other person in their own journey, like you said, from a compassionate, um, detached point of view that cares but doesn't force an outer external perspective on people. That's sort of where I was listening very intently, but my mind was putting that together as I was listening to you. And I think it's interesting. I'd love to hear you talk about, if you feel like it's a good moment, if you could weave in these other 4 topics we've talked about and how they fit in to that point of mastery when you're then looking outwards to help others and tell the story to support others. How do those first 4 kind of skills of resilience fit into this?
Right. So we started with detachment, and that's as the first step, as you say beautifully, that we need to have some space. And I call it the disassociating our I-ness from the experience itself. Because when we are in the middle of it, we are like almost pulled through it through our belly button. And so there has to be some separation so that we can see the other possibilities. And then the focusing in the now that we talked about is the second step. It gets you into be able to see the other events in your life in parallel to this experience, because sometimes these life consuming experiences get us to think like nothing else is happening. It's like a vortex. In a way, some of the traumas are like a vortex, like a black hole. It pulls us from one way of living into the next, right? Through big traumas, we often change the way we relate to ourselves, where we relate to the environment around us. So then being in the now helps us to see other things and other possibilities and respond to life, continue to respond to life. And focusing on something we value and can control gets us to see us, oh yeah, this is happening and I can still do this.
Right.
Yeah, there is the end then becomes available and becomes possible. And integration then takes everything and digests into our being. Often that whether people, some people who get to see the energies, I can sense, I have intuition, I don't get to see them yet, but these undigested life experiences actually sits like a blobs in our field, in our biology that is waiting to be integrated. And so the integration gets to help you digest the experience emotionally, physically, mentally, biologically, into energetically into your system. And then when we arrive to mastery, we are now like, I got this.
Yeah.
Experience 0, Tijen is 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see how it's a culmination of all of the previous, and then maybe even a shift there in, I don't know if it's intention or mindset, but how maybe it's a choice of how to integrate and use the experience in a way, how to apply it.
Yes, and I think that this final step really gets you to, I call it superpower state. Because when we get and offered a challenging experience, we feel a loss of a power. We feel like I don't have the means to respond to this. And this final step, seeing someone in the level of mastery of this experience, it then takes the power through moving the power that helps you move through into the new level. Like, oh, now it becomes a superpower. Through that, I became much more compassionate. Through that, I became much more understanding. Through that, because of that, I became this and that. So that turns into the superpower.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's really interesting. I feel like when we talk about resilience, it's a word that I love and I hate at the same time, or maybe hate strong. Like I have an aversion to it and I'm attracted to it. Let's say it that way. To the word
It's like
resilience
a
because
bad person to fall in love with, right?
yeah, resilience, if it were a person, might be a bad person to fall in love with also. Because resilience, when I think of it, it carries for me an emotional charge of like strength and force and push through and move through, and it almost to make something to get through the challenging circumstance. It almost feels like when you're talking about mastery, I feel it come up in my body as more of a lightness, a joy, being on the other side, and almost as if there's the founder of Mind Valley uses this word unfuckwithable. It's almost like mastery is when you become unfuckwithable about whatever it is that has happened. And again, not in a toxic positivity or an ignoring what's going on kind of a way, but just almost as if you've moved beyond it and transcended the experience energetically. That's how it feels for me. I want to share that with you and hear your reactions to that.
Beautifully said. Thank you. And I didn't want to make you cry, but I was going to ask you.
I am an emotional
it's
person.
Like my signature move, right? I'm the coach that makes people cry. So if you think about one of your traumatic experiences and look back, and when you choose to see yourself from the position of mastery, how would you describe that, what you became out of that experience?
For me, that word would be, and without wanting to offend anyone that's a religious person, but divine, just transcended, above, not in a superior way, but in a just a peaceful part of the flow and energy of life and goodness and creation. Just completely liberated maybe as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I shared this in my article, but I've been working with nonprofit organization, and that's, let me mention that, so if people want to help out, they can do that. Unite for Her organization helps men and women for diagnosis with breast cancer, and also for women ovarian cancer. And I've been supporting that organization, offering my services to the women that they are going through their journey. And I am by birth very sensitive, compassionate person, but nothing that can describe the level of my compassion that I arrived after my diagnosis with it.
Sure.
Right? That, so there is an exponential growth, whatever the area of our life that trauma was pointing light to.
Yeah.
And mastery, I think, gets you to sit in that light and project it out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, I love this topic. I love this whole series of talks. And for anyone that's with us here today, thank you. And if you're watching the recording, thank you as well. Please go back through the previous four so that you can hear about each one of these aspects more in detail, because Tijen has taught us and shared so many good, both nuggets of wisdom, but perspectives and ways of thinking about this that are super practical for, I think, taking some more steps down that path to our own, building our own resilience. I know you teach other coaches as well. You're a coach mentor on how to live and experience this method with their clients as well. How do you teach others to coach around this, or how do you coach around this?
Well, there are some of my students have been with me for a while that they are interested in learning, and I kind of certify them in the Genco method. And so couple of things are there that when I'm teaching this, I am teaching them to do it in a way, if they're choosing to do it, that this can be done around a group coaching. So you can find a theme, for example, that a group of people who are diagnosed with breast cancer, you can coach them through each step to prepare and support along their journey towards their health and well-being.
Right.
Or you can also learn this to apply as a methodology working with an individual. Let's say somebody is going through a divorce experience that's also traumatic, or loss of a loved one. How do I move through each of these things? So what I find is that although I'm teaching these in 5 steps, often that I have a similar methodology around envisioning the best life. And so it has steps, but it doesn't mean that one step, one session, one step could take few months. It depends on the person's and the group's ability to move through it. So basically what I'm then teaching to the students is to how to conduct each step, how to have a dialogue around it, and how to be compassionate and not choosing for the client to move when the client needs to move. Maybe some client, I have a friend of mine, she's also my client. She's in the consideration of a divorce for 10 years, right? It's not, we cannot judge when people are going to be ready. So in a way, also working with the coaches to appreciate where the client is and stay present with that. So those are some of the techniques that I use when I'm teaching that.
Really great. Well, I didn't ask you this time yet, but I am curious. How is mastery within your method related to the neurological approach? How is it connected to that?
Yeah. So when we talked about that in the earlier steps, that when we are feeling powerless around any experience, there is a dimming, and that's where you were beautifully explaining that when you arrived at the mastery, there was a divine and the light return. And that's basically what happens. There's a dimming because of the fear. There is a shutting down in certain part of the body, biologically, energetically. If we want to talk about the meridians and the chakras in the Eastern traditions, there are, again, loss of energy, and it affects the biology and all that. So neurologically also, then the human beings becomes, when this fear is present, we get into the reactive response, not a chosen response. So, and one also not becomes available, that one cannot realize the choices are available, especially when we don't get to the detachment state. Right, so then the coaching around that neurologic approach to that up until this point, supporting the clients to see the choice, and in the mastery then really owning it.
Yeah, I love that.
So then where is it? How does it going to be more expressed? What are the ways that you're going to wear your medals and show it? So there are different aspects to connect to the neurologic chosen response and further shift from the reactive response.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I love that you've just mentioned the word there, to choose the response, and bring that self-awareness in, and have the distance to be able to see that there are options. That's really beautiful to be reminded of. I can't be reminded of it enough, to be honest. So I appreciate that. And how do you, for anyone that's listened that feels like, okay, I'm either moving into mastery or I'd like to move into mastery and apply some of the things that you talked about today. How can someone coach themselves around that?
Mm-hmm. I think that we cannot move forward. This is my experience. Maybe some people can.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in a lot of pretty much every client of mine, that we cannot move forward without having a burial. Because every time there is a traumatic event, there is also a loss too.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get themselves to the mastery, I will invite them to have the funeral. Write down a eulogy, whatever is lost, and write down. And in the eulogy, we're also often always that speaking about the appreciative point of view, right?
Right. Sure.
Write down a morning poem, write down a morning letter, whatever it is that the part of you suffered that needs to be hugged and boo-booed.
Yeah. Yeah. And give it some self-compassion.
Absolutely. So, and do a ceremony. If they think about this like an initiation to the next level in the portal we talked about in the beginning. So how does that ceremony look like? What do I want to wear for that ceremony? Because we need to mark from transitioning from one space to the next. And without those things, it's blurry. So I think those will be helpful when one does that coaching.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. I'm just continually reminded as I listen to you and learn from you that our traumas are not things to be hidden, because when they are hidden, it feels like they have more power. They define us, and we're not making choices. We're being reactive, like you said. And this has just been a beautiful series of talks to see how to come into those moments of challenging times and see how we can still move forward authentically, recognizing the pain. Like you said, holding a funeral for any of these traumas, I think that's a beautiful self ritual that someone can create to just honor, all right, there's been a loss. Maybe it's not one of the losses that would make for a great Hollywood drama movie or something, but they're real to us. They're real to us, and we can only move through them by recognizing them. So those are some of the biggest sticking points for me from this series of talks with you.
Beautiful.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate all this, Tijen. I know you have a training. Is it a training coming up in June? Tell us more. I know I always invite you to tell us, but it would be good to hear one more time.
Yes, thank you so much. I will share those, but I want to go back to what you said. It was beautiful. When we hide things, right, there is often a shame too. So if we are hiding because we are a private person, it's one thing. But if we're hiding, feeling like we may be judged about it, that gets us to dims our light. So there needs to be recognition of those, distinction of those two things. And when it is the latter, maybe we need to find more safe places, start telling our stories in a way that is going to be appreciated and understood. So, of course, the coaches often always help. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful.
yeah, thank you. So I have a couple of things coming up, and especially the second and the third week of May, the International Coach Federation celebrates International Coaching Week. And with that, I'm offering 4 complimentary events that are available through International Coach Federation's website, or people can come to gencocoaching.com under upcoming events to register. Some of them are, all of them are intended for coaching and coaches. but still helpful for people who are interested, because I am going to talk about my neurologic approach to coaching. In one event, people can come and listen and learn more. In another one, I am going to talk about my somatic coaching. I'm hosting a gift mentor session and a session around Coach Federation's competencies, people who are interested in obtaining credentials or upgrading credentials. My mentor coaching for May starts this afternoon.
This afternoon?
Yes, for May, in the month of May, and my neurologic coach training for this year starts in June. So if anybody is interested in signing up, I recommend they do that now, because there are pre-work needs to be done before the training starts.
Yes, and that's all available on your website, gencocoaching.com, right?
Yes, under upcoming events tab.
Great. Tijen, thank you so much. I can't wait until we do another series of chats. It's just, again, always fun to speak with you. I always enjoy it and always learn so much. And again, if you're watching the replay or you're here live, leave some comments. Let us know what you took away from this, and definitely go check out what Tijen is doing on our website and sign up for some of those events.
Thank you, Jamie. It's been always a pleasure and joy to be with you. Thank you for hosting these morning events, and I look forward to having more with you.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Bless you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Okay.